Alright everybody, welcome back to First Attack. I'm doing an askjchensor question where you can send me an email at ultrachentv@gmail.com and ask me all sorts of questions. Again, if you don't want me to read your name, I only read first names, but if you just don't want me to read names at all, you can just mention that in there. So you can ask any questions from beginner level to high level to not even fighting game related. You can ask all sorts of questions. You can ask questions about community, about games, whatever. Again, ultrachentv@gmail.com, and hopefully I will get to that. Hopefully it won't take me 5 months to do another Ask Jchensor question, so you'll forget that you even asked the question at all. But let's continue forward. And Colin asks here, he's a Smash player coming over to traditional 2D fighters from high-level-ish Project M and Melee. A few things like spacing carry over, but not much else. Like the movement is so different. Are there any specific habits you know of that I should avoid developing based on me having played Smash for so long? The one thing the way that I've always described Smash is that Smash, what did I call it? Oh God, I can't even remember the term that I use. I always said it's very, it wasn't liquid. But you know, it's kind of like it's formless almost. There's so much to it because all the space, you can move kind of all these directions. When people get hit, like depending on how much damage they've taken, the reaction's different. It's very organic is basically the word that I want to use. It's, you know, the situations are so varied, and like the best way to describe it is like nothing is guaranteed because the amount of damage you have, the amount of damage they have, all sorts of things change a lot of factors. One thing to learn about most fighting games is that they're very exact and they're very precise. So if a combo hits at a certain distance, that combo is going to work at that distance every single time, right? If this move is a punish to this move when you block, it's going to be a punish every single time, right? So it's very, very exact, very precise, and stuff like that. So a lot of the same situations are going to come up there over and over again. Key moments that we talked about, right? So, for example, if, you know, uppercut, FADC, dash forward, that's a situation that's going to come up a lot. So you start building up what you're supposed to do in those kind of situations. So the games are very more precise, and they're a lot more. You can categorize things like this is the situation, this is the situation. Obviously, I don't play a lot of Melee competitively. I played the hell out of Melee free-for-all. But I don't play a lot competitively, so I could even be wrong about that. It just could be the way I perceive Melee, because I obviously don't play it a lot and I don't understand it, so it looks crazy to me like that. So maybe it's not quite the same quite how I'm describing it, but you know, jumping, for example, in a lot of games like Street Fighter, very few characters can change their jump arc. It's very fixed, you know. Even in games like Guilty Gear, where you can double jump and air dash, it's still kind of fixed. You know what I mean? Like if you jump and air dash, or if you jump and double jump, those are really the only options that you have, and you can't control your double jump really. Whereas like in Smash, when you jump, you can still kind of go back and forth a little bit. You can control. There's a lot more control into it. So you know, it's very different. So the one thing about traditional 2D fighting games is the movement is very fixed and very precise. Some games do change that a little bit, but for the most part, that's how it is, and it's a good way to try to look at it. I don't know if people are going to tell me that I'm wrong or that I'm crazy with this kind of comparison, but that's how I see it. So again, controlling space is a very important thing. So for example, fireballs, if you already know exactly if the opponent jumps where they're going to land if you throw a fireball. So you already have all your plans on how to stop that distance of where they're landing. You already know what's going to happen when they jump over the fireball. You know, if you're trying to bait someone to jump at you, you know exactly what distance to stand, because they only have one jump distance for the most part and such. So, yeah, that's kind of how I see it. So really, it's being able to recognize those kind of situations, and you get a lot more prediction and a lot more pattern recognition. I know in Smash, like to land a lot of combos, it's very reactionary. Like if they decide to, you know, DI a little bit to the right, you got to have that one ready to go. If they DI to the left, if they don't DI at all, you got to have this. So you kind of have to react to the right moves to keep the combo going, to keep your offensive sequence going. Whereas in a lot of other games like Street Fighter or even Marvel, right? Even Marvel, which looks like it's crazy movement everywhere, once you start hitting him, it's going to be the same thing every single time. So it's really more about a lot more muscle memory, a lot more just knowing the situations very, very much. And in the chat, Cyblade actually just asked if Nintendo ever patches anything. They haven't done a balance patch yet, but they are patching Mario Kart with DLC, so they're definitely getting into that. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do for Smash 4. I think it'd be very cool if they actually start patching that. So Mateus asks here, he's a Cody player, but he doesn't understand what frame traps are. How can I get better at this? Does he need to memorize all of his frame data? How does he practice it? And how does he practice fundamentals, especially whiff punish? So frame data basically is tricking an opponent to stop blocking and you hit them. That's generally the generic term of what everyone calls it these days. So it's basically counter hit setups, frame traps, kind of something that people are, they're kind of synonymous now. But basically you want to find a move that you can that is not negative on block. If your move is negative on block, you're not doing frame traps because the opponent's fastest move is always going to be faster than yours. But if you have a move that's plus on block, what you can do is get them to block the move, and then basically all you're trying to do is get them scared to touch a button so that you can hit them. Because if they keep blocking, like let's just say they keep blocking and you keep poking, you keep poking, you keep poking, you keep poking, they can just block all they want and you're never going to open them up, right? So if you start throwing in throws or overheads or whatever like that, you can get opponents scared. What's one of the best ways to stop a throw? Is to crouch tech, right? Hold down back and hit jab and short. So basically you're trying to scare them into, for example, crouch tech and then hit them with a move before their jab or short comes out. Now, obviously jabs and shorts are 3 frames, so you only have 2 frames to hit them with the right timing. So it's very hard tactic to do, and it's hard to practice. But that's basically what it comes down to, is just trying to get them to do something. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be crouch teching. So for example, the Balrog shimmy, when Balrog does jump roundhouse and then you walk backwards, that little timing in which they're not blocking gets them kind of scared, because when a lot of people don't see that they're blocking or the opponent's not doing anything, they immediately think throw. It's just a natural human reaction. So they stand up and throw. They whiff the throw because Balrog walked backwards. You punish their throw with low strong and a dash straight and a super or something of that nature. So that, for example, is a frame trap in essence. There is also practicing fundamentals with punishing. That is a control of distance. Make sure you stand at a range where you know if their move whiffs, you can counter it. And then basically you're just reacting to as soon as you see them hit a button. As soon as they hit a button, you sweep them. Really, really good players can recognize the button and counter and whiff punish properly. It's really hard to do. You have to start getting into like Neo Matrix mode where you like see the code or whatever like that. But outside of that, honestly, most of the time people are whiff punishing. Just as soon as they see a move, they go for it. So a lot of times you'll see people actually try to set up a whiff punish. Like, watch for this next time you see a fighting game where you see someone like do like low jab, low jab, low jab, pushes him to a certain distance so that he knows their next move is going to whiff. And then the opponent like says does low jab instead of low forward. You see low jab and the opponent immediately sweeps, but the person they tried to whiff punish blocks in time because they did a jab, not a low forward kick or something like that. So they're not really reacting necessarily to the move and whiff punishing it properly. They're just reacting to a move. But really what whiff punishing comes down to is proper distancing, knowing to stand at the right distance to get things to whiff. One of the most craziest times. And it's not by accident either. These people are doing it on purpose. It's amazing. Very early on in Vanilla's career, this was even before I barely started playing it. I barely knew how to play the game. I remember David was here, and Arturo came by and visited. He came to hang out with us. And Arturo was playing Dalsum, David was playing Zangief. And David would always be in range when Arturo would throw a fireball and David would do EX green hand, and the green hand would like miss, like be like a pixel away from hitting Dalsum's nose. And it's just like you think to yourself, well, he got lucky that time. No, this happened consistently. This happened at least 5 or 6 or 7 times during the course of the night. And that's just because Arturo knew the distance in which he could throw a fireball and be safe from the EX green hand. It's not necessarily whiff punishing, but the EX green hand would whiff and then he'd be able to hit it back. So he just had this really strong understanding of distancing. And that's how you're going to do whiff punish. So if you're going to try to whiff punish something like an 8-on stand roundhouse, very hard move to whiff punish, you know, just get really good at measuring the distance, right? What you can do is go into training mode, pick 8-on as the second character, for example, make him a second player, and then to practice the distance, use your character, walk up to 8-on and stop, and then just hit roundhouse with 8-on. See if you get hit or not. If you get hit, you're too close. If it whiffs, you test it out a little bit more, keep practicing. Just learn the distances of moves, so that way when you see them come out, you can react properly and whiff punish them. That's really what it is. It takes anticipation and reaction. Basically, if you're walking in a distance where you know they're going to hit a button that they like to hit, and you know you're at range where it's going to whiff, your brain automatically triggers, I could whiff punish if they touch this button. Then that's the anticipation, and as soon as you see that button, you whiff punish it properly. So that's how you practice. That's how you basically get good at whiff punishing. Someone says in chats that, you know, okay, I mean, they're talking about frames and learning frames. Again, a lot of top players, Vi, Justin, don't know anything about frames. I'm serious. Like, these guys are like, they don't know anything about frames, and they're still amazing at the game. Then there's people like Infiltration and Filipino Champ who study frames to death, and that helps them. So you can go either way when it comes to frames. All right. So Quinn asks, he has a lot to work on, but the problem is that, he seems to do well when he starts playing for like the first 3 to 5 games, and in that time, he typically gets complimented on his Dudley play. Then he starts rapidly declining, and he has trouble focusing in longer sets. So how do you expand your ability to focus or manage your mental energy? Or will he be stuck always being like a 3-5 game player, or is that something that he can prove with time? That really just... one of the things that's dangerous about characters like Dudley, who are very execution, and when you get on offensive flow, you can kind of just do your thing and you win, is that you do end up in this lull, and you kind of... like, there's getting in the zone, and then there's falling into the zone, right? I mean, once you've fallen completely into the zone, you stop thinking, and when you stop thinking, you stop playing, and when you stop playing, you just don't do very well, and sometimes it's hard to get yourself back into it. So, interesting thing that you might want to do is try playing a different character for a while, like Ryu. Ryu is a character who has no set patterns. Like, this character is like, I have to be awake constantly in order to play this character. And so that can kind of help you a little bit, keep your mental strength up. Or just, if you're playing Dudley a lot of time, just like between matches, constantly try to do something different. Give yourself a different goal every time. If your only goal is to win, and you're winning by your standard play, you're going to fall into this practice. You're going to fall into this problem when you're not used to keeping your mental energy up. So if next time you play, when you play Dudley, I want to try to land a bunch of overhead combos. So I want to see if I can train them into landing a bunch of overheads. Then the next one, I want to make sure that you know, I avoid jump attacks. So I'm going to try to anti-air every single time with standing forward or something. You know, just keep it a little bit alive, just to keep that going. And then once you start building up that mental energy that you're always thinking during every game, you start getting used to it, and you stop falling into the zone. Into the bad zone, I guess I should say, because there is a good zone and there's a bad zone. So you do not want to get into this. The bad zone I'll call a lull, L-U-L-L, lull. So don't fall into these lulls where all of a sudden you're just like, this is what I do, this is how I play. Oh, I lost, whatever. This is what I do. And that's usually how that happens. So okay, so a few more. I'm going to try to go through these really fast now. Okay, so Michael asks, I talked about the strategy ladder If you guys don't remember, actually, let me bust out the strategy ladder so I can let you guys know what the strategy ladders were. Basically, I had the different levels of strategy. The ladder, which was one-player games, patterns, shenanigans, character knowledge, matchup knowledge, game knowledge, and fundamentals. And one thing that so there's another question that talks about the ladder as well, but he says he has a good grasp on the steps of the ladder. He's still working on fundamentals, but he thinks that he's getting better. But he feels like he plays to the level of his opponent. And I really like this question because this happens to everybody. He says he played online versus Zeus in an endless battle. And, you know, he didn't... I mean, Zeus is obviously a better player than him, but he didn't feel like he did terrible. He went about like 9-3 with him, so he took a few games off of him. He played against PR Rog online, and PR Rog beat him 2-0, but it felt like they weren't complete blowouts, that he was kind of in there, he was kind of understanding. But then he plays online, and he plays some flowcharter, and then he just loses to them, and he just doesn't understand how to beat them, and... You know, I've talked about this a lot on stream. Mike Ross and Gutek said this a while ago to Rennick, which was, you've forgotten how to beat scrubs. And this is it's so true. There's always a point where you just expect everyone to be really smart, and you lose a lot. Honestly, Michael, if you want to really get a huge breakdown of this, go onto our YouTube, find our episode. I think David called it Lessons from Gandhi. Check that episode out, because that is a perfect example. That is 100% everything that you're looking for, and we talk about it at length. So definitely check out the Lessons from Gandhi video. Again, that's youtube.com/ultrachentv. Just do a search for that. And it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. Don't feel bad about it. It's such a problem. It's one of the worst problems too. It's a very frustrating thing to do. But find that episode. We talk about that at length. So I won't go into it too much detail here. Rory asks about watching yourself play. He tended to watch past matches of himself since he was told it's good practice, but doesn't feel like he's learning anything. How should I go about analyzing footage of my gameplay? Very, 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 very simple way to do it is every time your character takes damage, figure out why. Go back, find out the situation. How did you get put into that situation? And then why did you get hit? Or if you get locked down, what are you supposed to do with that? And you'd be surprised at how much you can analyze. I remember when I was trying to learn vanilla Marvel, Edma's like, link me to one of your videos, I'll help you analyze this. So I linked him a Marvel video, and it was me, Felicia versus a Magneto, and Magneto just kept doing EM Disruptor, and like I couldn't get past it. And he was like, alright, like this happened, like, he was like, okay, so how do you get past this? Go into training mode, make the training dummy do EM Disruptor and figure out ways past it all day. I was like, okay. And then he found another thing, and he's like, okay, go to training mode to figure out how to do this. And he's like, saw another thing. He's like, okay, why does this happen? What beats this? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you don't know. Go figure out how to beat it. And this happened, like, we talked about this for like 30 minutes, and seriously, we got through about 6 or 7 seconds of my match. Like, that's how fast he came up with things to analyze and take a look at. If I followed his advice, I'd probably be a better player. But I hate watching myself play games. I don't know why. It's just a problem. Don't be like me. I swear that's what First Attack should be. Like, don't be like me. Do everything that's not me. But definitely watch your matches and just pick out the moments, figure out why you're having trouble with things, and then go research it. Go research it on, like, for example, if you're fighting a Honda and he fierce headbutts you a bunch of times, you should wonder to yourself, I see a lot of other characters punishing fierce headbutt. Maybe I should figure out how to punish it. Go to training mode, test out, see if you have anything that can punish it, etc., etc. So use it as a means by which to research things that you are having trouble with. So, okay. Raphael asks, he says that he's brand new to Street Fighter and he loves watching and searching everywhere to try to get knowledge about it. He asks, and you know, he doesn't know if this is a stupid question. Nothing is a stupid question. How can I find my play style? He says he's so divided in so many characters right now, he can't figure out who to play with. He's switching so many characters that he likes, but he never can play the same one for more than 1 week before he switches. Should he find one that he, should I care about tiers and pick one that's better, or keep playing everyone until he finds the right one for him? Yeah, play everyone until you find the one that's right for you. Tiers are not very important early on when you're trying to learn a game. Tiers are important when you're actually trying to win a lot more, right? But if you're just playing for fun and you want to play well, I mean, look, El-Fuerte is really freaking good, but let's talk about Nemo. Nemo beat Daigo 5-2 with Rolento versus Evil Ryu. Evil Ryu, a character who everyone says is top 3. Rolento is a character who everyone is bottom 3. Obviously, not everyone's going to be Rolento, but my point is that you can actually still play well with a bottom tier character. It is possible. Especially in a game like Street Fighter 4, where bottom tier is not even that necessarily that terrible. Even in a game like Third Strike, where Q is like terrible tier. Like if I play David, his Q beats the crap out of me, right? So you can play well with low tier characters. So don't worry about trying to find high tier characters right away. But go ahead and keep playing characters, and you will find characters that you enjoy. If it actually turns out that you like playing random select and you like playing all the different characters, more power to you. Then learn a lot of different characters, keep playing the different characters, and eventually one of them will start standing out to you that you start feeling more comfortable with, or has the most tricks that you like landing in a match. And then you have the advantage that you know all the characters. That's very rare these days. Very few players have that skill, and it's what gives a lot of strength to players like LPN. From NorCal, because he plays so many characters, he knows all of them, so he's really good at fighting a lot of characters, and he understands generally how to play a lot of the characters, so he's really good. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Daigo lost 5-2. I just watched that match today. So again, back to the fighting game ladder. So Jacob asks a question. He plays Elizabeth in Persona. He has this a trick where he basically does auto combos, which is AAA. And the third A in the auto combo for Elizabeth kind of puts the character in this like pseudo stun mode. But it looks like you have to mash to get out of it. So what he does is he does dash AAA, puts them in that stun state, and then dashes up and does AAA. And if they get hit by it again, they're mashing, so he dashes up and does AAA repeatedly. When really all you have to do is just hold block, and when you're in that pseudo stun state, according to Jacob, if he tries to hit him, he'll block. So he tests his opponents a lot of the times and goes for that AAA, then dash up AAA, then dash up AAA, and sees what happens. And if his opponent gets hit by it a bunch of times, he just keeps doing it. His question really is that considered a valid trick? Or is that considered a shenanigan? So remember, when I talked about my ladder, I talked about there's one-player games, patterns, shenanigans, and then, valid tricks, which is with character knowledge, matchup knowledge, and other. That's a shenanigan. It is honestly a shenanigan because it's something that people shouldn't be getting hit by. And once you know you can't get hit by it, you will never get hit by it. Basically, shenanigans usually kind of fall under that area where if you know what the shenanigan is, you will never get hit by it, right? So in general, if the opponent knows that once they get hit by 5-5 AAA and then they just block, they can block, it's not even a problem for them. So definitely more of a shenanigan than anything. And then he asked me if there's any way I can share any tips with Elizabeth on moves and combos that he should try. I am the wrong person to talk to about Persona. Obviously, the new Persona came out, so she's very different now. But if you definitely want to learn a lot more about Persona, there's a lot of good resources out there. Honestly, anytime I want to know anything about Persona, the first person I personally turn to is Dacid Bro. Again, great commentator, super smart guy, very analytical. That's why I like asking him these questions. You can find him on Twitter at DACIDBRO. Dacid Bro, again, very knowledgeable in Persona, so he'll be able to help you out a lot there. Also, dustloop.com, their forums are usually, they're decently active, but most forums are decently active these days. Also, Twitter, if you have Twitter, you know, like I said, hit up Dacit Bro or hit up someone like me, and I can retweet it and see if we can get responses. David does that a lot when people ask him questions, and if he doesn't know the answer, he just retweets the question to everybody. So take advantage of a lot of those guys. So okay, Marvin asks, you know, I talked about the ladders again, and he's asking me about the triangle of fundamentals, the triangle of footsies that I talked about in that episode. I've talked about this in a lot of episodes. Basically, there's poking, there's whiff punishing, and there's walking forward. So poking beats walking forward beats whiff punishing, and whiff punishing beats pokes. So that's the rock, paper, scissors, the Rochambeau of footsies. So he asked me, wouldn't positioning be a better third triangle point than walking forward necessarily? And that's not necessarily true, because the reason why it's not right, because remember earlier on the stream I said whiff punishing is all about measuring your distancing, knowing your distancing. So that's where the dance comes in. So if the opponent moves back and forth, you're moving back and forth to go with them, so that when they whiff the move, you can whiff punish them. So essentially, positioning is more important for whiff punishing than it is for countering whiff punishing. The reason why walking forward is so important is because your opponent, when they whiff punish you, are expecting to kind of maintain this magic distance from you. If you start walking forward at them, and let's just say they don't get nervous and they maintain this complete distance with you, and they back off as you walk forward, guess what's going to happen? They're getting to the corner. As soon as they get to the corner, they lose control, half of their control of their distance, and now they can't whiff punish you as well. So if the opponent realizes that and you're bulldogging your way forward, they've got to start trying to hit you, and now you're baiting them into hitting buttons first, and maybe you can whiff punish them or beat their attacks or even get them nervous and jump at them and stuff like that. That is why walking forward is specifically a very important aspect of footsies as opposed to just generic positioning. Positioning is more important for whiff punishing than it is for the walking forward portion of that. He also has a very more specific question here. He plays Viper, knows that she's really hard for beginners, but he feels like if he learns more about her and how to use her, he can get really creative. He really enjoys using the burn kicks. He has funds, and she's more unconventional, not a Shoto character. Do you feel like it's worth becoming a main, you know, does it feel like he should main a different character first, that they're simpler and such like that, instead of learning Viper? Honestly, keep playing Viper. Like, if she's the character that appeals to you, keep playing her. You can play her on a very fundamental level that you don't have to go crazy with her, but at the same time, definitely keep trying to practice up the Fierce Feint Fierces and stuff like that and learn the higher level stuff. Stick with Viper, and you may want to have an alternate character like Ryu that you can switch to every once in a while, and you will find that helps your Viper game a lot, but you definitely seem to have a lot of personal attachment to Viper. Again, my opinion is that's a very huge key in learning fighting games, is finding a character that you really like, because that makes you work harder with them. So I would recommend sticking with Viper. So yeah, he says he gets bored with Ryu, and he says that he loses to his friends with Viper, but he doesn't get mad. So two things: one, if you're having fun, then, you know, by all means keep playing Viper. Two, you know, it's okay to get a little salty. It means you want to get better. So I mean, if you're just enjoying getting bodied all the time, then, you know, I mean, far be it for me to complain. That means you must be amazing to play games with. I am a chore to play game with. Let's just put it that way, because I get salty and mad all the time. But but you know, it's okay to get salty every once in a while. Just to not like, don't blow up like I do. Just get salty. So okay, so I'm gonna take another quick break, and when I come back, I'll tear through these last few questions, and then call it a night. So I will be right back.